Hi everyone, Heather here with Astrology with Heather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is from Monday, October 7th, all the way through to Sunday, October 13th of 2019. And this week we have some really crazy energy coming up with Mercury finally moving into the shadow period for Mercury Retrograde. Or I shouldn't say finally, because this normally isn't something that people look forward to. And that's going to actually be occurring at the end of this week, along with a super intense, passionate, powerful, transformative full moon in the sign of Aries, making a T-square to Pluto. And so we're not in Scorpio season yet. We're still in the middle of Libra season, but it's sure going to feel pretty scorpionic with all that Pluto energy. And so we'll talk about this in just a second here. But at the start of the week, things are actually going to be relatively calm. We will have the sun coming into a square with Saturn in the sign of Capricorn on Monday, the very start of the week. And so we can start off this week feeling rather burdened by our responsibilities and all of the work that we have to complete throughout the week. And so it's going to be an extra like Monday feeling Monday where it's like, oh no, this week is never going to end. We have like a pile of work to do. By the end of the week, the energy will start to shake up a little bit because we also have Venus moving into the sign of Scorpio on Tuesday. And as soon as it moves into Scorpio, we're going to start feeling the energy of Venus opposing Uranus, which comes exact again this weekend. And so this Venus-Uranus energy is really centered around doing new and exciting things that bring us joy, shaking up any dull, stagnant, stuck energy in relationships, reinvigorating passions with Venus in the sign of Scorpio, where it's technically at its fall, but where we can utilize this energy to deepen our intimacy, to deepen our emotional and psychological connection in relationships. And it's going to stay there, I think, until November 2nd, if I'm thinking correctly about this. And so we have quite some time to work on that. Venus in the sign of Scorpio can also bring a lot of intensity in relationships. It can bring up things like power and control issues. It can bring up manipulation in relationships. It can bring up a lot of paranoia and suspicion around our partners. And that doesn't necessarily just mean romantic partnership. We could start feeling suspicious or paranoid or distrustful of people in our lives that we're really close with, like friends or close, relationships with work, business partners, that type of thing. And one of the tricks to navigating this energy is to just kind of sit with it and think about if this suspicion or paranoia or jealousy that you're feeling in relationship, especially if you have a strong Scorpio influence in your chart, thinking about whether or not this is warranted, right? Do you have facts to back up what you're experiencing? Maybe you are picking up on something on a more psychic level, you're more attuned and more perceptive, but there's also the danger of really picking up on every single thing that goes on in your relationship as being like a threat. And that is one of the things that can happen. And people can become much more possessive under that energy of Venus and Scorpio, because people are more obsessing over their relationships. They are more jealous. They are becoming more suspicious of other people. And so while on the one hand, they might be feeling, jealousy, on the other hand, they might also be more possessive and wanting their partners to focus more attention on them. And so this is an energy that you have to kind of be careful with. But for the most part, this can be utilized, again, like I said, positively. So you can utilize this to really form deep, close emotional and psychological bonds with people that you care about. And that's the best way to utilize this energy. And, you can utilize a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of possessiveness to sort of stimulate passion in the relationship a little bit more if you do it in a healthy, sort of measured way, and if you're capable of doing that. Because again, sometimes things can get out of hand with these energies. But really, this weekend is going to be about doing things that are new and exciting to reignite those passions. Going on a trip, or taking a new class, or doing something that you've never done before within your relationship. And even when it comes to close friendships, reinvigorating those relationships, doing something exciting that helps you bond and understand each other better. That's the best way to use this energy this weekend into this weekend. And then this weekend is when things get a little bit crazy. So beyond just having this Venus-Uranus opposition, Mercury is going to move into the shadow period for Mercury retrograde. The Mercury retrograde is already upon us. It happens to begin on the 31st on Halloween Day, and it'll last all the way through to November 20th. And so we're entering into the shadow period. And for people who have a lot of fixed energy in particular, this is going to be a more retrograde Mercury retrograde. And by fixed energy, I mean people who have a lot of planets, especially their sun, moon, or rising sign in Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius. And so you guys will be feeling the impact of the Mercury retrograde the most. I've actually had a lot of people in my Astrology Stories group this week commenting about, Mercury just went into Scorpio, and, is it in its shadow period? And a lot of these people are predominantly Scorpios and Scorpio risings, people who have a lot of Scorpio energy. And, Mercury was not in shadow yet, but at the end of last week, which I mentioned in my weekly Astro-Highlights for this week, because it actually technically is on Monday at like around midnight my time. But we're having this Mercury opposition to Uranus, which can feel pretty retrograde because we're going to feel very scattered. Our minds will be thinking more impulsively, jumping around from topic to topic. We'll feel like we're all over the place. And I've been feeling that too. So that's why this is being posted a little bit late. There's been a lot going on. And so, Mercury was not in shadow yet, and Mercury is actually going to be in shadow beginning on Saturday. And if you want to join that Astrology Stories group, you can find it, on Facebook. You just search Astrology Stories, and I'll post a link down below too, because there's always a lot of interesting conversations about people's experiences with the astrology in their own lives and as it's happening by transit. So it's a good learning tool, and it sometimes reminds me of when things are going on, because I see a lot of people with common themes, posting things and commenting similar experiences. But anyway, Mercury retrograde shadow. So when Mercury goes, there we go, Mercury opposite Uranus. Messing with my technology. So when Mercury goes into the shadow period of retrograde, what this is it's sort of like a foreshadowing period where you start to kind of slow things down a little bit. It's causing you to have to take a look at whatever it is that you're moving forward with in a certain area of your life that's going to be subject to sort of backtracking, revising, re-editing, reviewing, redoing while Mercury is in retrograde. All those rewords that Mercury is really good at, or really good for when it's in retrograde, that reevaluation, that internalization of that mental energy where you're sort of rethinking your plans and reformulating your ideas. So that way when Mercury goes direct, you can utilize the energy in that area much more effectively. And so this is the foreshadowing period. You'll see where maybe you're pushing too hard, moving too fast. Mercury will start to slow you down in this area. It's not really the reevaluation period yet, but it shows you where you're going to be doing a lot of rethinking. And so it's an important thing to pay attention to, because when Mercury goes into the shadow period, it gives you an opportunity to really take in what's happening, to pay close attention to what's coming up for you, so that way you can navigate this energy. You can get a head start, and you can navigate this energy much more effectively when Mercury does go retrograde. So you won't be quite as bogged down by all of the miscommunications and mishaps and complications and delays and things that come up when Mercury is typically in retrograde. So pay attention beginning this weekend and over the course of the next couple of weeks in the area of life that's being impacted by that Mercury retrograde, which we will talk about in the forecast for all 12 signs, because this is giving you a really important clue. And one of the biggest things and the best advice I can give you for navigating any transit, really, but especially these Mercury retrogrades, is to use those shadow periods, especially the pre-shadow, because it's the foreshadowing period. If you're paying attention and even like taking notes on what's coming up for you, so you can kind of go back and review that when Mercury's in retrograde, you're going to get a head start on thinking about these things and figuring out where you might have trouble, so you can be 2 steps ahead of the game. And so that's something that you can start working on this week, or especially this weekend. And the other thing that's going to be going on here is that we, of course, have a powerful full moon in the sign of Aries. That'll be happening on Sunday the 13th. And so this is a really powerful time for anyone in the cardinal signs. And the people in the cardinal signs will be impacted by this in a way that can feel quite overwhelming, especially psychologically and emotionally, because Pluto will be involved. And this is going to be an intense full moon regardless of that, just because it's in Aries, right? Aries is passion. Aries is already intensity on a more physical level. When you have the moon in Aries, it's very expressive when it comes to emotion. People's tempers might be a lot shorter during this time, just so you guys are aware, especially with Pluto involved. And so, people might be a little bit more reactive and reactionary as opposed to responsive to the events that come up in their lives, especially if these certain circumstances feel emotionally triggering. And so again, we will talk about this. The good thing about this energy is that we'll actually have the sun in a sextile with Jupiter throughout this. And I'm actually going to add that to my little board here because I didn't draw that in. And I want to incorporate that into the reading that I'm giving for you guys. Just because that's where some of the really nice energy is going to be helping you through this full moon that can be rather intense. And so the Jupiter energy, first off, indicates that things are not going to be quite as crazy or bad as they might seem in the moment based on how you're feeling about it. It'll help you to maintain a sense of optimism and perspective on the circumstances that are coming up for you this week if you are experiencing some sort of psychological or emotional crisis brought about by this full moon. And it also indicates that whatever it is you're working through, which is usually going to be more internal, although with the full moon there could be some externalization, some physical manifestation of events that cause the psychological or emotional turmoil. This Jupiter energy ensures that the end results of working through this, working on it, pulling it up, looking at it, transforming it into something more productive and useful in your life, the end results are going to be very positive for you. And so, yes, this is going to be a challenging full moon, but there's a lot of really great benefits that can occur in the coming days, weeks, or even months after this full moon for those who are being impacted really intensely by it. And so the cardinal signs will experience this a little bit more so than some of the other signs, and those are, of course, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. But everyone will be experiencing this to a certain extent, especially those who have a lot of energy around that 20th degree, in any sign really, or in most signs. And so we will talk about this as we go through the forecast for all 12 signs. And before we do that, I just have a really quick announcement this week. I'm still working on wrapping up all of the reading orders from the summer and preparing some really new exciting stuff for you guys that'll be coming out in the next few weeks. Some things I'm really excited about that I want to tell you guys, but I'm not quite ready. And so, this week, if you are a Scorpio sun sign, your Scorpio solar return forecast is now available. And I'm actually really excited about this because Scorpios have a really great year ahead for the most part. There were a couple of signs in particular that I've done this year as I go through these solar return forecasts for the year ahead each month where I get excited to tell you about it. There are other signs where there are challenges, and that's important too. But when you're going to have a good year, it's important to harness that energy, right? And to use it to its fullest potential, because you don't know what next year is going to bring unless you're maybe an astrologer or you get a reading looking at next year. But this is a great energy. So this forecast tells you all about what's going to be going on. It's a 2-hour, actually more than 2 hours for Scorpio, forecast for Scorpio sun signs based on your birthday for your solar return year ahead. So for your birthday of 2019 through your birthday of 2020. And it gives you a roadmap. It tells you about the general energy that's going to be bringing the biggest themes for your year ahead, and also some of the more detailed specifics of what's coming up for you. So you can figure out and plan for your solar year and set those intentions appropriately to what the energy is supporting. And so you can find that down in the link in the description below. If you are an Aries, Taurus, or Gemini, your solar return year is about halfway over, and so your solar return forecast is half off. So you can find that also down in the link in the description below. And if you are a Sagittarius rising, a Sagittarius sun sign, your solar return forecast pre-order is now open, and so you can pre-order your forecast, which will be available on November 1st, to get 25% 25% off the price, and you'll be the first to receive it as soon as it's available. So you can find that down in the link in the description below. And those are my announcements for this week. The only other thing is that my Mastering Neptune webinar is coming up in like a month now. It's coming up pretty soon, and I'm really excited about that too. And so you can register now to get 25% off your registration fee and to attend the webinar live. This is a part of my Mastering the Outer Planets series, where we are diving deep with a 4 to 5 hour webinar on each of the outer planets. So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And Jupiter is only available at the end of this webinar series for those who are taking the entire series. So that's a special bonus for anyone who is taking the entire series. But you can also take them individually. I have Saturn and Uranus available now, and Neptune is coming up on November 16th, and so I'm really excited about that because Neptune is a very interesting planet, and I've had a lot of experience dealing with Neptune the past few years, so I have all sorts of tips and tricks for dealing with it, and it's easier to deal with more on the etheric level and energetic level. People always ask about remedies. I don't really believe in remedies for Saturn for the most part because everyone that I've tried hasn't been very effective. Saturn requires hard work. But Neptune is more open to energetic types of solutions and different remedies that can help you to navigate the energy much more effectively. So that is something we'll touch on in this webinar. So anyway, I guess I had more announcements than I thought. But let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, you guys. All right. And so for Aries and for Aries rising, first, the Scorpio. So Scorpio is moving into its shadow period this weekend on the 12th. And so this is going to begin this period of foreshadowing and hopefully reevaluation in the area of power struggles, control issues, debt, finances, other people's money, money that you share with your partner. And so if you have any issues around these themes, or maybe you're pushing too hard or you're moving forward in the wrong way when it comes to resolving issues involving debt or taxes or inheritance or other people's money in some way, now is a time where these themes are going to come up for you. This is also a time where you're going to have to reevaluate your fears, past traumas, anything that's controlling you from within. And so paying attention to what's coming up for you in terms of things that are triggering on a psychological or an emotional level based on your past experiences is going to be key to helping you navigate this energy when Mercury does go retrograde on the 31st. This full moon energy is going to be happening in your sign. And so this could be the culmination point of something that you started a long time ago where it comes to fruition, you get some recognition, you are going to be in the spotlight this week, so you're going to have a lot more attention placed on you. But there could be some sort of difficulty, power struggle, intensity that's coming from your work, your career, your public reputation, or people in positions of power and authority, where you might feel a little bit more limited, restricted, oppressed, and you might feel like you need to break free from that oppressive energy, fight back. You might feel like you're having to deal with a lot of your deepest fears around your public status or your career path this week. Some stuff could be bubbling up that you have to resolve, work through, and transform into something new. And that could be part of this energy too. For those who have their rising sun or moon sign in Aries around the 20th degree, so I would say for this one it's pretty strong. So anywhere from like 15 to 25 degrees, but especially closer to that 20th degree, you're going to be feeling this really powerfully. This could bring up some sort of emotional upset. This could be an emotional purge or a time where you release some sort of emotional energy really intensely. By doing this, you're going to let it go. You're going to be able to transform that energy, release it, and make space for something new. And so if there's anything that's been burdening you on that emotional or psychological level, especially as it relates to your career, you might have that emotional expression that comes out this week. You might not be able to bottle it up and hold it in anymore. But the end results of that are going to be greater freedom. one of the things that you can rely on is that Jupiter will be trining this full moon and sextiling the sun at the same time. And so this is going to help you to, whatever it is that you can't hold on, that you can't stand anymore, whatever it is that's making you reach your breaking point, especially related to your work or your relationships or work-related relationships, this Jupiter energy is going to ensure that the end result of you purging this, letting it go, working through it, maybe exploding some of your emotions out of you like a volcano, the end results of this will be you releasing what no longer serves you, releasing that oppressive energy and aligning yourself more fully and completely with your moral, ethical, religious and spiritual value systems and beliefs. So it's going to align you with your integrity. And it's going to happen quite easily as a result of you working through the issues that come up this week. All right. And for Taurus and Taurus rising. So this full moon is happening in your 12th house. This is the hidden house. This is the house of your subconscious realm. This is the house where you go for rest and reprieve. This is a time where you've probably been focusing over the past couple of weeks a lot on just work and being very busy in your day-to-day experience. So it's probably been a busy couple of weeks for Taurus and Taurus rising people. This is a time where you can come back into balance by focusing more on your inner world, by resting, by taking time out from normal day-to-day reality. There could be some intensity, though, that prevents you from fully feeling settled in doing that and engaging with that rest and that, that spiritual exploration, that connection with your inner world that you might really crave and need this week. The emotional upset could come through some sort of something new involving travel, a connection with somebody in a foreign country, some sort of educational pursuit or teaching pursuit, your relationship with a teacher or somebody who you look up to in terms of them being wise and disseminating important information. There could also be an upset that is occurring where you're really honing in on the fact that your day-to-day routine experience is not in alignment with what you believe and what you value. And if that's the case for you, it's going to be completely impossible to ignore, and you might have a bit of a psychological or internal crisis around that causes you to have to change something about your day-to-day reality in order to align yourself with what you truly and deeply believe. And so that's going to be an important part of this as well. That Jupiter energy, though, shows you that, so Jupiter is going to be in your 8th house, which is the house of going deeper. It's another one of those hidden houses. If you address the psychological issues that are underlying your dissatisfaction with your day-to-day reality, you're going to have a lot of really incredible benefits that can come to you in a lot of different ways. And so, this ensures that you're going to be able to work through those issues and have some sort of internal transformation. This could also bring some sort of powerful, important experience that comes to a culmination point related to joint finances, taxes, debt, other people's money, inheritance, some sort of investment or something like that, or some sort of profound psychological healing or deep realization that could occur alongside maybe a little bit of a psychological crisis. All right, and then for Gemini and for Gemini rising. So this energy here is occurring with I forgot to do Taurus Mercury retrograde shadow. I'm so sorry about that. That's an important one. Let's backtrack here, you guys. So Mercury will actually go into the shadow period for retrograde for Taurus in the 7th house of relationships. And so this is the foreshadowing period. This is where issues that come up around relationships that, slow you down, that stop you in your tracks, that cause mishaps or miscommunications to begin. This is showing you what you're going to be facing much more fully and in a way that you can't ignore when Mercury is in retrograde. So start paying attention to what's going on in your relationships, what type of communication is coming up for you, where you're having some issues in communication in relationships or with negotiations, because you're going to have to reevaluate those issues, those relationships when Mercury does move retrograde. All right, and then for Gemini and for Gemini rising. So this energy with Mercury stationing is happening in your 6th house. This is the house of work, health, daily routines. And so this is an area where it doesn't seem like it's that, crazy when you're going into the Mercury retrograde. It's like, 6th house, it's just routine stuff. It's nothing big. Usually these are where the Mercury retrogrades impact you much more strongly. So you might start to see some disruption in your daily routines. You might start to see difficulties in communications with coworkers or involving work-related projects. You might have some issues coming up around your health and around your nutritional routines. And so if that is coming up for you, pay attention to what you're experiencing, where there are delays, where there are little mishaps here and there, because this is going to become stronger when Mercury's in retrograde. This will show you what you need to start working on and start working on pulling back from, because you're going to be going through that period of reevaluation. This is where you're going to probably need to start slowing down and maybe even stop something that you've been working on. When it comes to your work, when it comes to work-related projects, when it comes to your daily routines, in order to reevaluate it when Mercury is in retrograde, so when it moves forward, you can have a better regimen set in place for you that's more in alignment with what you truly desire and what you truly need on a day-to-day basis. The other thing that's going on is this full moon, of course, which is going to be happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friendship. And so this is a time where you've probably been focusing a lot of your attention on your passions, on what your heart wants, on romance, on experiencing joy. And so that's been, a fun energy for the most part, but now you have to focus a little bit more of your attention on another energy that is normally quite fun, your friends, right? Your networks. This is the time where you're going to come back into balance by bringing yourself back out into the world, by socializing. But there could be some difficulty there. There could be some sort of intense conversations or intense situations that come up with your friendships over this weekend. And so, if that is the case, focusing your attention on your close one-on-one personal relationships instead of going with the group is going to be the best way to navigate the situation. Maybe there's somebody really close with, like a romantic partner or a close friend who you can confide in, somebody who you really trust, who you can go to one-on-one, who can help you to navigate what's going on and see things much more clearly from a better perspective. This full moon is actually going to improve those really close relationships that you have with people, especially on that friendship level. The closest friendships that you have are going to be improved by this energy, and you're going to have a lot of benefits. But some relationships might show their hand when it comes to power and control issues or manipulation. So just pay attention to that, and just note that there is somebody you can confide in, and find that person, and they're going to help you. All right, and then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, Mercury's shadow is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of fun, play, hobbies, interests, things that you do for joy, children in that childlike energy, romance. And so Mercury retrograding Mercury going into the shadow of the retrograde is going to foreshadow what's coming up for you during the Mercury retrograde. And so you're going to potentially have some old hobbies, old interests, old exciting things come up that used to help you to experience joy, that you used to really indulge in and really love to do. And so when those things do come up, it's showing you what you maybe need to reevaluate or reintegrate into your day-to-day experience moving forward. And so that's going to be part of this energy. And so this is not going to be the worst Mercury retrograde for you. It's actually going to be in trine with your ascendant, especially if your ascendant is anywhere from 10 to 27 degrees in the sign of Cancer. And so you'll experience this Mercury retrograde quite positively for the most part when it does go retrograde on the 31st. The full moon is actually going to be occurring in your 10th house, which is the house of work and daily routine. It's the house of career and public reputation. And so this is a time where you've probably been focusing a lot of your energy and attention on your home, your family, your roots. What's going on behind the scenes, what goes on after work, right? And now this is going to be a time where you might be thrown back into the workplace, focusing on what's going on with your career, or focusing on some sort of issue at hand involving your public reputation and the way other people perceive you, or involving some sort of relationship with an authority figure. Pluto being in the mix here indicates that there could be power struggles, there could be difficulties, especially because you are a Cancer rising. If your rising sign is anywhere from 15 to 25 degrees, this is going to be impacting you really intensely. You could have some very intense situations coming up in relationships this week. The way to navigate this is to focus on your day-to-day reality, focus on your day-to-day routines, your day-to-day work experience, and what you truly desire there, and focus on creating a better situation for yourself when it comes to your day-to-day life, as opposed to focusing too much energy on obsessing on the big picture. This could also indicate some sort of emotional outburst in the workplace, or some sort of power struggle or control issue in the workplace that leads to an emotional crisis or an emotional outburst. So you just want to be aware of that, focusing on the day-to-day and not so much on what's going on when it comes to that overall big picture career stuff, and those power struggles or issues that might be going on might help you to resolve this a little bit more effectively and to feel better about what's going on if there is an issue that's coming up for you this week. All right, and then for Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leo and Leo rising, this energy with Mercury going into the shadow period is actually going to be occurring in your 4th house of the home and family. So paying attention over the next couple of weeks during this foreshadowing period, paying attention to what's going to be going on for you, or what's coming up for you in the realm of the home, family, your property, your place of living. If something breaks, pay attention to that. Fix it now. Like if you have leaky pipes or something, involving Scorpio, plumbing, especially sewage, that type of thing. Pay attention, and make sure that you're getting on top of it now, and know that you might have to go back and fix it again or make some adjustments when Mercury fully goes into retrograde after the 31st. Any issues in communication, anything that's coming up for you around your family dynamic and family relationships, now's a time when you'll get clues as to what's going to be coming up for you when Mercury fully moves into retrograde. Anything involving your property or paperwork or negotiations or communications involving your property that come up right now, make sure that you resolve them fully and completely before Mercury goes retrograde as much as you can, because it's showing you what you might be having to deal with that might become a little bit more difficult when Mercury fully moves into retrograde. For Leos, the Mercury retrograde period will be a little bit more difficult, so this is especially important because Mercury will be retrograding in square with your sign. For the full moon, this is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of adventure. It's the house of the big picture, gaining perspective when it comes to anything that you've been learning, thinking about, contemplating, communicating about over these past couple of weeks. You've had a lot of busy energy, usually when the sun and other planets are transiting your 3rd house of communication. There's a lot of communication coming in. You might be having a lot of short distance travel. Your commute might be a little bit more chaotic as well. You might have a lot of issues coming up around your neighbors, your neighborhood, your extended family, your siblings, that type of thing. And so this is where you get to step back and get a sense of perspective on everything that you've been learning, dealing with, communicating about over the course of these past couple of weeks. The issue is that there could be some sort of, so it could feel like you want to go and escape. You want to go have an adventure. You want to go take yourself out of all that communication and chaos and busyness, and go travel somewhere, go learn something new, go explore, have an experience. And your day-to-day routines might feel a bit oppressive, and there might be something that you have to deal with involving your health or your work that might prevent you from fully embracing that energy, and that could feel very difficult and very oppressive, and it could lead to some sort of emotional turmoil. The good news is that Jupiter in your 5th house is still going to allow you to have some fun. You might have to make some adjustments. You might have to let go of something involving your work or your routines in order to make that happen. And that might be a little difficult for you. But if you do that, focusing on your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love to do is going to help you to maintain that sense of adventure, even if you don't get to go anywhere. And so this is a full moon where there could be some difficulty, but there's also a lot of really great opportunity for you to experience joy, to go out and have some fun. All right, and then for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So this energy here is happening in, I gotta close this out. There we go. This energy here with the Mercury in shadow period of retrograde is happening in your 3rd house. Mercury retrograde in the third house, I always tell people, is going to be a little bit more challenging than you think it is, even though it's going to be in a nice trine with your descendant, a sextile with your ascendant. So it does yield positive results. Every time Mercury retrogrades in your third house, the third house is a very mercurial house already. It rules short distance travel. It rules communication. It rules all the things that Mercury normally kind of messes with when it goes retrograde. So make sure you have all your ducks in the row during this foreshadowing shadow period. Anything that comes up to you that indicates some sort of mistake or something that's been left unfinished involving paperwork, communication, your car, right? Get your car serviced. Make sure it doesn't break down. Make sure that all of your technology is in a row. Back things up over the course of the next couple of weeks, because you'll be really glad that you did when Mercury fully goes retrograde on the 31st. The full moon is happening in the sign of Aries in your 8th house, which is a really intense house already. Anytime you have a full moon in the 8th house, you're probably going to be experiencing a lot of intense emotions. This is also a time where your intuition and your psychic energy is going to be enhanced. And so you might be picking up on a lot of stuff that's not necessarily related to you even. This is a time where you've been focusing a lot of your energy on the material realm, and now you have to focus on what you truly and deeply need, want, and desire on an internal level. This is a time where you might have some fears, some anxieties, some past traumas and wounds that might bubble up to the surface, and you might be feeling emotionally overwhelmed by that. If this is the case, this is a great opportunity for you to face that energy and to transform it, to heal through it. This is one of the most powerful, deeply healing, especially on a psychological and emotional level, deeply healing full moons that you can have with this Pluto energy being involved. It won't feel like it's super easy for you, but Jupiter's going to be there, and Jupiter's going to help you, and Jupiter's actually in your 4th house, which rules your emotions, right? It rules your safety, your security, where you go when you're not at work, right? It's that place where you go for rest and reprieve. And so that's a really great energy. So this is really going to help you. So really focusing, take time out this week, especially this weekend. This is a great weekend for you to spend more time behind the scenes, behind closed doors, focusing on your family, focusing on your home life, making sure that you have all your ducks in a row in that area. And if you do that, you're going to have a lot of really incredible benefits that come. And so, that's where you're going to find the good energy. Some really powerful, positive events can happen for you, involving your home, involving your place of living, involving your family dynamic or your family members. And so that's where the good energy happens with this full moon. Okay, and then for Libra and for Libra rising, the shadow period for the Mercury retrograde is going to be occurring in your 2nd house, and this begins on Saturday. And so over the next couple of weeks, this is a really important time of foreshadowing that's going to show you the financial issues that might come up for you to review, revise, re-edit over the course of the Mercury retrograde, which begins on October 31st. And so pay attention to what comes up for you involving finance, budgeting, payments and paid checks, debt, bills, that type of thing, important purchases, because these types of things are going to be coming back around when Mercury's in retrograde. The full moon this week is happening on Sunday in the sign of Aries in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships. And so it's been your time, right? Because it's Libra season. So happy birthday to all of you Libras out there who are born this week. You're having a full moon week, especially if you're born over the weekend. And so this is a week or a year of complete culmination for you, where you're going to have a lot of external events that are manifesting based on work that you've put in previous cycles. And so I talk about this pretty in depth in my solar return forecast, the 2-hour forecast that I did for your year ahead, and you can find the link to purchase this down in the description below. But for everyone else, this is still going to be a culmination week. This is going to be a week where big things can be happening for you, especially involving relationships and especially involving your home and family, your property. There's going to be a little bit going on around that. And so you've been focusing a lot of energy on your own needs, your own self-interest, what you want, what you desire. You've been in the spotlight. The attention has been on you. And now it's time to focus your attention on the needs of other people, on the relationships that provide balance and harmony to your Libra rising sign in your life, the relationships that are really passionate and that help motivate you. That's part of this energy. But the other part of this energy involves potentially some difficulty, challenge, oppressive energy, power struggles in your home, maybe involving your property or your place of living. This could be a week where, maybe you can no longer stand the oppressive energy of maybe a roommate or a dynamic within your relationship with your family, and you need to say something and it comes out. And maybe in a one-on-one situation, you have some sort of emotional purge or outburst, and that's completely okay if that's the case. It's something that needs to come up and needs to be released, but it could pose some challenge if you don't approach it if you don't approach it in the right way. The good area of your chart this week, or the good energy in your chart this week, is occurring in your third house of communication. And so communicate with the people that you care about. Tell them how you feel in a gentle way before it reaches that boiling point, before it reaches the point where you can no longer hold it in and you lose your temper or have some sort of emotional outburst. If you're having an issue involving your family, involving someone that you care about, involving your marriage partner or spouse, now is a time to speak up in a gentle way, and you're going to be very easily well received. So approaching it rationally rather than emotionally is going to be the best way to navigate this energy. For Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, this shadow of the Mercury retrograde is happening in your sign, so you might be feeling this the most. This is going to be, a retrograde for Scorpio risings. This is going to be a time where you have to reevaluate yourself and the way that you show up in the world, the way that you present yourself. Anything that comes up for you involving your body, your appearance, your persona, your direction, and what motivates you in life over the course of the next couple of weeks, where you're having some difficulty, hesitation, mishaps, pay attention to that, because it's going to show you what you need to reevaluate. You could also have a reevaluation occurring over the Mercury retrograde that begins on October 31st, involving your relationships, involving your career, involving your home and your family situation. This is really going to hit you in all four corners of the chart. And so especially if you are a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising with your planets between 11 and 27 degrees, this is going to be impacting you the most. So pay particular attention to what's coming up for you, where there's hesitation, where things are slowing down, because that's where you're going to have to reevaluate. And then this full moon is happening in your 6th house. It's a busy house. So, with this Libra energy in your 12th house, you might have been feeling this intense urge to pull back, to focus more on your inner world, to take time out away from the day-to-day busyness of normal life. And this is for a reason. For Scorpio sun signs, this is in preparation for your solar return, which happens every year on your birthday or near your birthday. And so that's a cosmic reset. It's your own personal new year where you get to set intentions and start fresh. And so, this is an important time for you to spend more time in contemplation, to spend more time focusing inward. And if you want to learn what's coming up for you in the year ahead, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, your solar return sun sign forecast for the year ahead is now available down in the description of this video below if you are a Scorpio sun sign. If you're a Scorpio rising sign, it's still a period that's more introspective because it's the sun transiting your 12th house. You're preparing for this rebirth of the sun on your ascendant, where you're going to be more out in the open, more externalized, doing more things that people can see. The spotlight will be on you. And so you're kind of in this preparation phase. But this week, especially into this weekend, you're going to be very busy. You're going to have the moon in your 6th house, which has to do with health, daily work habits, daily routines, relationships with coworkers. And so there could be some really intense communication or emotional outbursts that come through these themes. You might have an emotional outburst with, your employees or with your coworkers or something along those lines. You might have some health issues that come up that cause a lot of psychological or emotional turmoil for you, or you might be going through a really intense, deep emotional and psychological healing process that results in some sort of physical healing, and so that could be part of this as well. If you focus a lot of your intention and really put your passions and your emotions behind the work that you're doing this weekend and into next week, you're going to produce really incredible results. This can really be harnessed by focusing a lot of that emotional energy on really getting things done and really igniting your passions around your work and your day-to-day experience, letting go of anything oppressive involving communication, marketing, day-to-day text messages, phone calls, emails, not worrying so much about that and focusing on channeling your passions into your work. If you do this, Jupiter is actually going to be in your second house of finance. And so a lot of really great financial benefits can come to you this week, especially around the time of the full moon, even amidst maybe some sort of emotional crisis and turmoil. So you'll have positive physical results, even if you're dealing with a little bit of chaos in terms of your day-to-day work experience. All right, and then for Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising. So this this Mercury shadow, let's talk about that first. So Mercury is going to be moving into retrograde shadow on the 12th on Saturday, and this is going to be occurring in your 12th house. This Mercury retrograde is going to be a very introspective time for you. It's not going to be a lot of external manifestation of, mishaps and miscommunications and things like that. It's going to be more about going inward. It's going to be more about internalizing your thoughts, reevaluating. And it's going to be about really wrapping things up, right? Tying up loose ends, ending a lot of projects, a lot of karma, a lot of relationships, a lot of situations in your life that no longer serve you. And so this is going to be a time where you can go back and wrap up any issues that have not been resolved, that need to be resolved before you can move forward. And so this retrograde shadow foreshadowing period is going to show you where some of these issues might lie and what's going to be coming up for you for that Mercury retrograde period beginning on the 31st of October. For the full moon, this is actually going to be a more positive full moon for Sagittarius than for some of the other signs. You've been focusing a lot on networking, on connecting with other people. You've probably been feeling a little bit more social over the past couple of weeks. And now's a time where you can focus more on joy, on experiencing the things that you love and that you feel really passionate about, on romance, on engaging in that childlike energy. And with this moon being in trine to Jupiter, which is in your first house, this is going to benefit you in a lot of different ways. And so this is a time where you can socialize, go out, you can engage in your passions while socializing, and you can feel a lot of joy, you can feel a lot of excitement, it can feel like an adventure for you, and you can learn something new from these experiences. The issue is that there could be some sort of emotional or psychological turmoil that comes from the area of where you create your resources, so finances. There could be unexpected expenses that feel really burdensome, that cause a lot of fear. There could be issues with power struggles, control issues, difficulties in the workplace that, again, bring up a lot of fear and anxiety. And so paying attention to what's going on there and making sure that you can plan ahead will help mitigate the potential for some sort of challenge or psychological issue or emotional outburst related to those themes. All right, and then for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So this Mercury retrograde shadow is happening in your 11th house. So this is going to be a foreshadowing period beginning on Saturday that will show you a lot of what's going to be coming up for you around your friendships, groups of people that you surround yourself with by choice, organizations that you're a part of, or altruistic pursuits that you are engaged in. And so that's going to be coming into full retrograde on the 31st of October. But now's a time where, little mishaps, little miscommunications could come up around friendships. You could have stalls or delays, or things could be slowing down when it comes to important group interactions. Pay attention to this because it's showing you what you're going to need to be working on, reevaluating, reassessing when it comes to those relationships when Mercury does go retrograde. For the full moon for you guys, this is going to be a really intense, really powerful full moon. You've probably been focusing a lot of your energy on work and what it is that you're doing out in the world. That's been in the spotlight the past couple of weeks. Your public reputation, your work-related issues, relationships to bosses. Even if you don't work necessarily, this could be you focusing more of your energy externally. And so now is a time where you come back into balance by focusing more on your family. You could be forced to focus more on your family because there's some sort of emotional or psychological crisis going on within your family, within your home, within your family dynamic. And so it could feel quite intense and it could feel like it demands your attention. There could be somebody who has an emotional outburst in your family or in your home and you have to deal with that. Or you might have an emotional outburst related to your family. The good energy, though, this week comes from the 12th house, focusing on your spiritual practice, focusing on spending time in solitude, spending time in rest and contemplation, spending time away from the world and day-to-day busyness is going to yield really positive results, and it'll help you figure out how to deal with any power struggles, issues, psychological crisis, or intensity in the home much more easily and effectively. And it'll yield very positive results that'll help you to let go of anything that is not serving you in these areas of life. And then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So for you guys, this Mercury retrograde period is going to be happening in your 10th house of career and public reputation. And so the foreshadowing period happens to begin on the 12th, which is on Saturday. And so this is going to bring up maybe some delays, some difficulties, mishaps, some themes and energies around your career, and maybe reevaluating your career goals and plans, or important career-related projects, or your relationship with people in positions of authority, or some aspect of your public image and your public reputation. And so anything that comes up around these themes at this time, it definitely warrants your attention, because it's showing you what you're going to be working on during the Mercury retrograde, so you can get a head start. The full moon is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of day-to-day communication. It's the house of text messages, phone calls, emails. You've probably been focusing a lot more on travel, adventure, trying to maintain a sense of perspective on your life, looking at the bigger picture. Now's the time to look at all the little pieces that make up that bigger picture. You might have some really intense, very emotionally charged communication coming your way, or you might be the one expressing that emotionally charged, intense communication this week. And you might not really understand where it's coming from, whether it's coming from you or if it's coming from the outside. It might just feel like it came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it's exploding, and you're like, what is this that I'm having to deal with here? Leaning on your friends and leaning on your networks can help you to navigate this situation a lot more effectively. So this is a great week where a really, really positive energy can come through connections with groups of people, and networking and surrounding yourself with the people that you surround yourself with because you love them and they make you feel good. And so this is a great time to go out, spend time with friends. If there is some craziness going on, maybe you can get some advice, or they can help you to maintain that sense of perspective, because you're surrounded by the people that you surround yourself with by choice because you enjoy them. And so that's going to be what's going on for Aquarius. And then finally for Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for you guys, this Mercury retrograde shadow period is happening in the 9th house, which is the house of travel. It's the house of higher education. It's the house of adventure. It's the house of foreign countries and people who are from, or who live at a distance. It's the house of teachers and teaching and writing and publishing and all these things. And so this Mercury retrograde shadow foreshadowing period is going to bring up some of these themes potentially. Luckily for Pisces, especially if your sun, moon, or rising is between 11 and 27 degrees, this Mercury retrograde is going to be experienced pretty positively, because Mercury will be retrograding in trine with your planet or point in the chart. But, this is a time of reevaluation where you need to reassess, take a step back, look at the bigger picture. This is not a time necessarily to move forward or push forward with new ideas. This is a time where a lot of old ideas or old concepts will come back into your life, and you'll have to maybe reintegrate some of them. So paying attention to that and what comes up for you around those themes is going to help you to navigate the Mercury retrograde a lot more easily when it comes up fully and completely on the 31st of October. The full moon for you guys is happening in your 2nd house. The 2nd house is the house of money. So you've probably been focusing the past couple of weeks on your inner world, on, there's been a little bit of psychological or emotional intensity in your life. Maybe you've been focusing on resolving debt or dealing with issues involving joint finances or inheritance or taxes or anything really involving those themes. And now's the time to focus on your own resources and the way that you create your resources through your own hard work, the way that you budget, save, and utilize your money. And that's going to be where you're going to be focusing on more on the physical. There could be some sort of crisis, power struggle, difficulty that comes up for you involving finances that's related to groups or organizations, that's related to maybe your membership of a group or organization, or that's related to friendship, especially if you've lent someone money or something like that. And so this could bring about some sort of outburst or psychological crisis around resources this week. The other thing that's going on, though, is that there could actually be a really incredible, there could be some recognition that you get, or some really incredible developments that happen in a very positive way around your career, your outward manifestation through your career, or through whatever it is that you do in the public, or through your relationship with your boss or somebody in a position of power and authority. You could even get a raise. And so the crisis could be resolved through that, or it could be that your peers or that people that you network with for your business maybe have some sort of issue with you receiving compensation or receiving some sort of reward, and that could be part of it too. But really, I mean, in terms of finance and in terms of, you know, job satisfaction and career recognition and all of that, this is a good week for that. Whatever you're going through is probably going to be predominantly psychological. So my computer is still doing wonky stuff because we have Mercury in opposition to Uranus right now. This has been a weird one to record. And I'm talking about the Mercury shadow, so of course. So thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like this video and you feel like it has value, please like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys next week.